Hello, my name is Francis Fox, and I'm a trained remote viewer, skilled in all the psychic skills, a lot of dedication to um, ensuring that my psychic skills are the maximum that I can achieve in this incarnation on this planet under these conditions that we all live in today. We are in very scary times, and I'm going to start with the first thing, which will be the most boring, be like gossip, and that is that I ordered food and I did not trust what was going on with my food. I asked my masters, they said, yes, expose it. I took a photograph of the Uber driver's car. I haven't had time to look it up, but a lot of times when people are following me, whatever, and I get a license plate, there you cannot find who it's registered to. So, anyway, here's the license plate of the Uber driver. I'm not going to go into the details. Boring, repetitive. I thought they had given up. What I did was I purified the food that I ordered, and out of it came this almost like begging me to please call them. So these are obviously, unless I'm completely off track, people that before I used to work with. Remember, I'm a mind control victim, so it gets really confusing. Um, and then afterwards, what was coming off as I continued to purify the food was this incredible level of rage. The man that put the food, I told him not just to hang it on the fence. I didn't want to get near him. He looked kind of familiar and he looked very frightened. So the bad guys are frightened. Trump, you're doing a good job. Now, we're in a scary time. I did the map and I was kind of okay with it. Let me show you what it is. And then I realized what I was sketching. So here we go. This is the map. The United States has a spiraling of the golden age and energies. Mexico looks good, Canada gone down, whatever. Then you got this on the West Coast, you have this squiggly black, which kind of is like a jagged edge, like a separation. I was okay, well, the West Coast has always been a problem. We've had to spend too much time purifying, clarifying, stabilizing. Ah, but then I saw something red and I started to sketch these circles, and then, of course, the map ends. That's something is going to go on with that portal that we found in the Pacific that we were not able to close, but that has everything to do with the earthquakes that are happening. And if we look at the map again, where is it? If we look at the map again, it's almost like something happens there. But I'm not sure that this is a tsunami. It could be. Those red things could be simply those waves of frequencies. I don't know what it is, but I think we're in trouble. That being said, we did work 2 nights ago on the Chicago portal. I asked that the statistics be taken of all the assassination attempts and all, they don't call it that, murders, and in Chicago from the day that we started that. And tonight we're getting together again. Actually, it's this afternoon at 5, and we're going to continue to clear. It was very interesting, really interesting, because I found out that Chicago has a coccyx, but it was hidden. There was a layer there that we couldn't see as we kept working further down and further under the underworld. And that coccyx was really trashed. It was terrible. We started to make a dent on it. And I would think that maybe even now there should be less murders, but we have to continue to clean that up so that we don't become a militarized state simply because this country does not know how to handle an excess of the fire element, which is the causal for suicides and murders and assaults, mental illness, etc. If we dealt with the fire, come on, Elon, I think you can help with this, we wouldn't have all these murders. That's been known throughout history. It's only modern medicine that doesn't know that. But let's get on to some more interesting stuff, and I'll try to slow down. But I'm really anxious. Um, I have every reason to be, as does everybody who's concerned about the state of the world. So I decided I was going to sketch John Bolton and Kellyanne. on the Matrix mind map, which is basically the mind map of mind control. So here, let's go with the first one. This is Kellyanne. She's connected to Schiff, having to do with mind control. Now here it says at the bottom left of the page, it says an implant in your liver. That's in Spanish. We all have that. That's the stuff that I clear, and it makes a huge difference in people. And on the right, you have implant corazon, which is an implant. We have implants in our heart. Okay. But then at the top, Kellyanne, it says Bolton, and underneath it says husband. This is a mind control map. Okay? Those lines are mind streams, and when they have that little thing at the end, that's what they're hanging on to or what's implanted in them. So I wanted to do this because I like Kellyanne. I believe that she is a mind control victim that was totally robotic when she was defending Trump on all those interviews, 5 years ago? Okay. So then I did John Bolton. John Bolton is connected to my handler, Rene de Villegas. He is connected to Schiff. He's connected to a friend next door, which I suspect has to do with Kellyanne's husband. Now, I have an extra map. Maybe, I don't think so. Why would Schiff be on there? Well, Schiff had the whole intelligence community under his control. Wrong map. Why would Schiff? Let's put it back up again. This is John Bolton. I did it 20 minutes ago. What's his connection with Rene de Villegas? Rene de Villegas lives in the Miami. He's not supposedly a part of the intelligence community. He is. He was funded by the FBI. The FBI was the one that gave him all that money to trash me, stalk me, put up revenge porn, but that basically was stuff that was set up, threaten me, want to kill me, pay to have people unalive me, the whole 9 yards. Why would John Bolton be connected to him if he has no official position, my handler, in the US government? Because he's part of the mind control. So it's not official, having to do with everybody being able to be aware of it. And then he has Schiff all the way up at the top. Now, why is it that with Kellyanne, this map has Schiff on the other side, and on John Bolton, it's on the left side? Now, the whole left side there, that quadrant, is the air quadrant. It has to do with a lot of stuff that's subconscious off planet. And then Kellyanne, if she has Schiff all the way on the right, it means something different. But I feel she's a total mind control victim. And I feel that John Bolton is a victimizer. And when I look at the maps, that seems to validate it. So we are in a very, very interesting place. But more than that, I think, Trump, you're probably more wrapped around this than I will ever be allowed to be aware of. But this is huge. But bigger than that is this worrisome thing having to do with the Pacific portal. Now, we tried to close that portal the night of the earthquake, that there was supposed to be big tsunamis. There were not big tsunamis, but that's because we worked on it, and we could tell that we made a difference. We weren't, even that night we tried to close the portal, we were not able to close the portal. So, worrisome, extremely worrisome. So, my handler, Rene de Villegas, is still active. And so let me show you something. I don't know that you're going to be able to see it. There is, and I have so much powder on it. This was evidence of him trying to hang on to in my energy assemblage of bodies. He was able to reach me. But he had to, like I told you about the left eye, when they get those bruises, and all the reptilianos, and they were fighting it off. This line here, I woke up and I could feel that the nostril was like concrete. I said, what on earth is going on? And then when I got up the next morning, when I went to wash my face and put on makeup, I went, what happened there? What happened was that Rene de Villegas is still totally operational in the other dimensions. And I think he's still with freedom of movement in the physical dimension. He has friends in the Southern Command Center here in South Florida. Got it? He's got friends all over the place. Whether he paid him with all that money the FBI gave him, or the money that he took using my skills to sell information about natural resources in Venezuela, they pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for each piece of information that he couldn't give, but he had to get it through me. I never got it. I don't actually remember the moments in which he got it from me. Not a good thing to be a mind control victim. But when you wake up and you have a bruise and you don't know where you got it, something happened in the middle of the night and it was a spirit. We all wake up exhausted. Remember that decades ago, if a dog barked in the middle of the night and it woke you up, the next day you would say it at work or in your family, dang, that dog woke me up. Huh? Now you shouldn't even bother saying that because the quality of our sleep has deteriorated so incredibly. Why would that be? Because that's when the spirits are active and they basically are taking over our consciousness, our spaces, our physical bodies. This, by the way, is soft again. My nostril is soft. Therefore, he is not here on this side of my face, which is where the portal is on the left. And let's go back to the map of these people. So on the left, which is that Rudra portal, the god for that portal is the god of chaos. You have Shiv on John Bolton's map, the friend next door, and then Rene de Villegas. And on Kellyanne's, you don't have that. And let's skip that. I have so much to share. Remember the eclipse, the 7th and 8th of September 2025. Elon Musk, and why it's not on X, I can't see it on X. I'm signed off for everything he has. Why it's not there, I don't know, but it should be there. That eclipse, and then there's another one on the 20th, but that eclipse, the one the 7th to the 8th, depending upon where you live, supermoon eclipse in September is a dividing line in humanity. And I believe that line corresponds in the Bible to when there are two women at the well, God comes and lifts one up and the other one stays behind. It's that dividing line. What determines where you're going to end up? Your frequency. What does that mean? Your spirit body and your whole assemblage of body is like a garbage bag of stuff. And too many of us are carrying things from other incarnations, from our childhood, and we've never done the proper purification. Talk therapy is not a purification. You can feel a little bit better. You can awaken more memories, which is good, but it doesn't purify it out of the different bodies that you have. It may increase your frequency a little bit. This is good, but you've got to get the energetic component and your emotional response out. If not, you have a low frequency. And the way you can test your frequency is that white dress, that very famous controversial white dress, which I'll put up here. And the people that are listening to it in a podcast, you should have that white dress up on your refrigerator, in your bathroom mirror, to see how you're doing. See, now I don't see it crisp and clear, but today I told you, today I am really stressed and I don't see it clear and crisp. But so my frequency is lower because of my fear. I mean, we have a lot going on. So I want to say something. And Elon, I want you to be listening. And Trump, maybe you also. I want everybody to listen to this and breathe as I speak. I'm not going to program you. Many years ago, I worked for what was I have to be careful. I worked for a really big bank behind the scenes in HR, and there were a lot of issues. And at that point, I don't remember what the issue was. But I said, listen, we're in the middle of something like a collapse of a hierarchy, and the people at the top are not going to be as protected, and the people at the bottom are not taking as much from the garbage from the people in the management. And the man that I worked with said, oh, they call that the flattening of hierarchy. And they're doing that in businesses. They take out a whole chunk of people in middle management. Okay. But I that made me think, and I wrote an article. So that would have been in the 90s. And the article has to do with the fall of hierarchy, which in the Bible, the reference would be uh, those that came last will now be first, and those that were first will be last. And I think that that is what Elon is trying to educate us about, that I've seen in a couple of other places, which basically says, and Elon is pointing out in terms of September, I'm pointing out in terms of September, and what is it that actually happens that we should be so worried on the physical dimension? Fall of hierarchy. Churches, corporations, countries, the family. And I wrote this article where I listed the different things. In the family, fall of hierarchy is the father is no longer in charge, and he can't be a dictator, and you have to share power. The whole thing about the fall of hierarchy in corporations is the I think that the business people, what they're seeing is that corporations are going to collapse. When you go to governments, the United States used to have everything so much more than everybody else. And then we kind of lost position, and Trump is bringing us back there. But the way we do things have to be community. What am I talking about? You need to listen, because you have to apply this to any business you have and any relationship. And that way you don't get a collapse. You can continue forward. Power in the other dimensions until now, and that's what's going to end, was in the shape of a triangle. Nobody at the top, one person, two people, Catholic Church, the Pope, everybody else underneath, different levels, and everybody supporting the guy at the top, regardless of what they do or did or represented, because that's what power was in the other dimensions until now. Now that changed, having to do with an example. If you had more bombers and bombs and nuclear bombs, whatever, the nuclear bombs, yeah. Um, well, you were on top in terms of war. No. When those young kids started to strap bombs on their back and run into crowded places and explode, an example of the fall of hierarchy. It doesn't matter how many bombers you have. One kid, one crazed kid can do more destruction than your bombers and all those, your ability to kill everybody on the planet 20 times over. You're no longer at the top. And if you don't know that, the collapse of hierarchy, which is the collapse of the structure of power in the other dimensions until now. What is the new structure of power? Community. Circular. That's what's supported. Now, in the 90s, a lot of people in my field of healing, alternative, they set up little clinics and little places that went together, and everybody, aromatherapy, this, that, and that. Okay, they never worked, but they were based on community. Yeah, but that there's been a time of transition between the triangular shape of power and the circular shape of power, which is what gets supported today. The triangular, the organizations that are based on triangular shaped power hierarchy, many of those are going to collapse. And when Elon went through the different industries and said that statistically, if you look at it, they all collapse at the same time. Well, I think that's basically the end of hierarchy, male dominated hierarchy. Male could be a female, but with male energy. That's it. September. Now, next week. How do we move quickly? I think a lot of people are moving towards that. Um, I'm actually going to spend some time on that. I actually need a lot of help. I am I have people doing programming on me, mind control programming plus black magic, for me not to be able to add two and two and come up with four, not to be able to work on when I work on my keyboard, there is not a time that I don't make a spelling mistake, and I become aware of it, so I triple check. And the other day I checked, and it was fine, and then I looked back and it wasn't fine, and I went, "This is not possible." And then I started, okay, so why is it? Please God help me with my intention to understand what the hell is going on. Did I have a stroke or something? No, they're doing black magic. They want me to make mistakes, which, by the way, I did make a mistake the other day that could have been disastrous, but it wasn't. And I'm correcting it. And I've always said if I say something that's not correct, you should get back to me. You probably won't be able to reach me because I don't get email, I don't get mail, and Facebook and YouTube have me totally. All my interesting comments are gone, and there's mainly no comments at all. But I was attributing certain things that had to do with YouTube, and I was using the word Zuckerberg. And then I went in the middle of the night, I realized, and I went, oh my God, doesn't matter because Zuckerberg's doing exactly the same thing. They're taking down all of the comments, and I'm sure they're controlling the numbers, but I have no way of. I guess we could pay attention and do that, but they take down all the interesting comments. They're not allowed for Francis. So that's why when I gave that particular podcast chat, I could see Zuckerberg was upset. And yet, I was actually in that moment referring to YouTube. So YouTube is Google. Oh my God, who goes against Google? You know what, Google? I'm so sorry, but you're trashing my account. Fall of hierarchy, Google, applies to you. Fall of hierarchy applies to Zuckerberg. They're not going to be in charge much longer. And it's not fair that the accounts, like it's like somebody told me, you have very few numbers. I mean, like nobody's following you. He said, I know you're good and I know you're telling the truth because that's what they do to people when they say the truth. I'm not going to dwell on that. Just know that to the best of my ability, I am going to give you the truth. Now, there's some stuff I hold back because I'm not sure that I should be saying this on a platform that everybody's listening to. I actually think I should be saying it directly to the power players, but at this point, that's not happening, and that's okay. It's okay. We're all doing. Um, my masters gave me permission to talk about Grovile, and I sure did. And then I think it was a Saturday. On Sunday, I woke up and I could feel and hear people saying, "Well, you call the lawyer. You're going to trash our the value of our apartments. I hope they get trashed. I hope they get trashed because." And I have the date, August the 20th, 2020. I sent an email to the guy that was the manager of Olive Grove Isle. And I said to him, I'm having problems with a group of people. This is not good. I said the name Jaime Shushlik. Da, 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 da. He responded and said, if you have those kind of problems, you should call the police department. Well, the police department in Miami totally sold. Cuban mafia totally has them under control. They wouldn't dare do anything. And I hand delivered to the wife, to the husband of the woman that works for the Federal Reserve on Grove Isle. I hand delivered to him all of these documents about what was going on to me on Grove Isle. But then I realized when I was laughing about it on Saturday, and they discussed my mental health in their board meetings, which is against the HIPAA law. Besides which, what they were referring to was my working with Dr. Colin Ross 30 years ago, where the conclusion was, as it was with everybody, I had extreme dissociative disease having to do with abuse. Everybody agreed on that, and it's not considered a mental illness. It's a reaction to reality. But what I remembered on Sunday was at that time that I was in Grove Isle. Actually, I don't honestly know if it was that time or if it was later. The Miami Police Department got a new chief of police, which I'm kind of sure that that's who the bad guys in Grove Isle went to see to please help them to get me out of there. I mean, that's our home base. How could I dare be there? So that's how asleep I was. So he said no to them. He wasn't going to get involved. Anyway, I don't know at what point, 6 minutes, 6 months, or 2 years after that, I have to look it up. That same new head of police of Miami, who was a Cuban from California, he's supposed to be very good. And he was one of them, I guess. He was giving a statement to the press, and he said something about like a Cuban mafia, you know, within whatever. And it just slipped through. And then somebody from Telemundo, the TV station, got back to him and said, "We want to hear a little bit more about this Cuban mafia you're talking about." By the way, they talk about the Cuban mafia 20 years ago in Europe. They already knew about them. Okay. And so in the interview, she started to say, "Well, what did you mean by that?" And he went, "No, no, just, there's a core group there." He was fired by the same people who brought him in from California. I think he was suing them at a federal level. And he said to the press, "This group of people, they are worse than than Cuba's Castro. Their behavior is much worse." Yeah, yeah, that's true. So anyway, Gravile, clean up your act. I asked for help to the appropriate people. I documented it, and you did nothing but trash me. And the HIPAA law, I looked it up. There's a 5-year limitation, but it's very iffy. And I was there like 5 years. It's very iffy, the time frame. So, Grovile, um, this week, Trump terminated the person that was the U.S. Coast Guard commander. And I saw her photograph and I went, "This is not a good thing." If you look at her face, if you're interested, if you want to start learning to diagnose yourself, if you look at her face, as you look at the face on the right, which would be her left side, the chaos portal, I'm going to call it that from here on out, that side of her face is totally different. Now, we all have more wrinkles, an eye is this way, this is here, certainly I do. Almost everybody does. But it's like it's a different person. Okay? U.S. Coast Guard commander who was terminated by Trump this week. Look at her face. And she's two people. She's not one person. I don't think I even need to sketch her matrix mind map. By the way, I'm going to sketch my own. And I'm going to see, because I've never done that. I need to triple ensure that when I sketch these people on like Bolton's mind map, that I'm not just sketching, "Oh, they're friends." No, I'm not, but I'm just in case, I'm going to do it. Because I have to tell you, when I do something that goes against what I consider as ethical, it's just, my life's not worth living. It's not. I have to get it taken care of. So, and then this is the last thing I'm going to say. I give these workshops, and they're supposed to be like really, really quick because I'm just purifying people, but I see stuff and I love to teach and I love to understand and I love to connect the dots. That's why I've been able to get some really great stuff out there to help people. And we were working on white magic. And we already know that our connection with white magic is if we can get our coccyx, the point of our coccyx, to vibrate at 988 hertz, and I'm not even sure hertz frequency, the frequency of 988. So we're working on that, and all of a sudden, I said, so superpowers, white magic, the tip of the coccyx, that by the way, if you look at it, that looks like the pine cone on top of the very evolved spiritual masters and the very evolved Buddhas. They have a pine cone. It's the coccyx. So it's like that upside down thing. Haven't figured that. I haven't had the time to get this. So we're working on that. And I said, okay, to the people, my people in the class, I said, so we know that the superpowers are in a gland that hasn't been discovered yet called the mimosa. I named it in the third eye. It's not the pineal, it's a different gland, and it is now open and stimulated. I said the superpowers are there, and yet the coccyx, the tip of it, if you can get it to vibrate at the 988 frequency, it connects to the third pyramid in Egypt, and that pyramid is called Mycerinos. And it apparently has very interesting architectural structure, which I have not had the time to look at yet. And then I went third eye and coccyx. So between the two, well, let me finish. When your coccyx vibrates at the frequency of 988, it is vibrating at the frequency of the tip of the, what is it, Mycerinos pyramid in Egypt. There's a resonance, and that is where you can get the magic. Now, in Egypt, they did magic all over the place. I mean, they were a magical society, so I guess they kind of knew that. So I'm there, and I'm going. Wait a second. Third eye and coccyx. We're now just dealing with the coccyx. What about the third eye? And then I remembered, and I said it. Too many times I have woken up in the middle of the night, and this section of me, the eye section, as if it was a brick. You know, each energy center, each chakra is a brick laid on top of each other. The Bible, they call it the ladder, Jacob's ladder. That brick that has to do with the third eye would not be in place. It would be, I don't remember if it's to the left or to the right of me. And I remember waking up and saying, this is not good. They have part of me under control. Third eye. So then all of a sudden, I could see that, the third eye chakra, pulled away from the body. I could see the coccyx. And I went, okay, so there's a connection. So where's the connection? So guess where the connection is for in terms of magic? Your belly button. Now Francis really went crazy. No, I didn't. I'm connecting the dots. We're going to now really understand things. The belly button is witches and what do you call them? Witch doctors and santeros and all the rest of that. They have an alchemy. They have a cauldron where you put different ingredients together, and then there's heat. I guess, and a lot of times they've done magic on me, and I can see the guy on 8th Street, the cheap apartment in 8th Street. He's got his cauldron on his little cheap little stove, and he's putting stuff in it and bones and this and whatever. Terrible. Your belly button is the cauldron where you get what's in the third eye and what the coccyx. That's where you get the magic. Your belly button. Oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. No, it's beyond interesting. For those of you who know anything about martial arts and that energy center there and how it's important to have it heated up, I don't know anything about that. We don't know why that's important, but it's important because it's my goal, teaching white magic, which really is magic with ethical intentions. But it was like, wow, there's a name for that center, Tien Dem or something, Tien. I don't know. I don't know if there's somebody on the chat. As usual, I go too long. Um, that knows that point in the body that the Orientals use that has to do with martial arts, that's sacred. And I think it has also a lot to do with sex. I'm not sure. I'll get it for my next podcast. So at the same time, I'm a wreck because of everything that's going on. I'm actually really happy because we're connecting the dots on these things that are important. Human beings are scheduled to access their superpowers. All human beings, which is going to make it really interesting. The kids are going to love it. We can call it magic. Some people call it miracles, except miracles are not something that you can call in. Oh, I need a miracle now. You can do that, but then you have to ask, you're a victim. You have to ask God or a saint, please help me with this. Do this for me because you know you can't do it. No, it's the white magic is repeatable miracles where you're in control of when you get it, what you want, dot, 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 dot. So we are in very interesting times. And Elon, I believe that this that you saw in September is totally accurate. But I believe that you are only looking at the physical aspect of life and that there is all the other dimensions, which is where reality is created. And that this shift of the ages, which you're identifying, Elon, in the business aspect of life, is not the only thing. That I'm not saying that we should not worry about what's going to happen in September. 20 years ago, I knew my life would totally change in September. And I kept waiting every September. Is this the September? No. Next. I believe it's going to be this September. I think it's going to shift for everybody. And I think that there's things that can be done. And I think that an integration of our materialism with our spirituality is the thing that can make this shift graceful. And one of the mantras we used to do that we should get back to is, please God help us with our intention to create an ascension. What were the words? To ascend as graceful, as elegantly as the Mayans. Because the Mayans are the only people that actually ascended without creating a mess. So, Elon, I think what we're talking about in September is the same thing. It's an ascension process that if you only are dealing with the physical, the material part of it, it's going to be a mess, which means we'll be just like all the other civilizations, except for the Mayans. And what did they know how to do? They know everything about their spirit body, which is your astral body. And they took care of it. Anyway, if somebody can look up that license, let me put it up again. And this could simply be some uh, person that earns their income with Uber. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. So when you find out that this person, you can't track it or whatever, then you know that we have to add that to the list of people that are dangerous to me personally, but then to everything it is that I do and give and share, and to a lot of other people. They would be part of the mind control. The deep state uses these different people that come in from other countries and they get captured into the system having to do with a lot of things plus mind control. They are the mercenaries of the deep state. So I don't know why I'm saying that in connection with that. Anyway, going back to Zuckerberg, I did a chat, and in the chat I said that Trump may be Jesus Christ in a business suit, and that he's a 44 numerology. And somebody on my Instagram um, was really angry at me. She likes Trump, but how dare I say that Christ is not king? Well, let's start with the fact that Christ is a shaman. So I don't know how much Christ would want to be king. Shamans are the people. But that's okay. She had her opinion and she went on to 44 and 33, and then it equals this and that, and how can I say it? I'm an animal. Okay, and I responded, whatever. Gone. And it was the post I had the most comments on. A lot of people liked it, but I don't know what they had to say because Zuckerberg took it down. So going back to the Christ is King, the only thing I have to say to people that would like to get upset at me and trash me is, do you live like Christ? Do you? Because if you do, I want you on my team. I want to talk to you. You don't. You don't. Most people don't. So, unless you live like him, then you bought the marketing about him. And believe me, he never would have wanted anybody to use him as a marketing tool. You can't stand the Vatican, and you're going to throw the entire Bible at me? There's a lot of great stuff in the Bible. I quote it all the time. I quoted it 2 or 3 times today. But don't throw the whole book at me, and certainly don't wag your finger, because Christ would not have liked that. And I think that Christ is at least equal to the Buddha. And what did the Buddha say? He didn't want what his teachings documented because he did not know if they would be contextually valid in the future. And in the Bible, they have an end. And they say they don't even know when it's going to come. But that after that, there'll be the golden age. So there's a shift. I'm just trying to get people to learn to think. Now, I was fortunate or unfortunate enough to have somebody that required that I think, and that if something didn't make sense, and that really meant that it wasn't accurate. And too many stories that we accept from our religions are not accurate. And as I say, and I'm ending this here, if your kid came home from school and told you some of the things that your religion requires that you believe in, you would say to your kid, stop lying. But because it came from a religion, you have to believe it. And then the fear of everybody else accusing you. So, we'll be back. I need help. I need to walk out of my house. I need to get my hair cut. I need a lot of things. So, we need to get the bad guys to where they just give up. And they understand that they lost this particular war and that beating up on certain people is not going to work. And again, back to Kellyanne, I think she's a total victim. So, it'd be sweet if anything happens with her that people know that.